Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Crazy Conversations with Miss Kim on IntellectualRadio.com. As always, I appreciate my executive producer and wifey for lifey, Sumner Allman, is here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Before I introduce our amazing guests and co-hosts, Crazy Conversations with Miss Kim would love to say congratulations to Sean Tyler and Reginald Henderson on receiving your certificate of innocence today on April 2nd, 2024. Crazy Conversations with Miss Kim would like to say congratulations, guys. It's been a long, hard fight, but God is good. We are so excited to have this amazing woman, the owner of Takana's Kitchen in Calumet City, Illinois. Crazy Conversations with Miss Kim would like to thank you, Takana, for coming to Crazy Conversations again.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
And you're joining us on IntellectualRadio.com. You got to look a little closer to the mic. They want to hear your gorgeous voice.
Thank you so much for having me. Mic check. Good. Okay.
This multiple segment called Resolve to Evolve. In this segment, we combined requested conversations and questions from listeners. So please do not miss this completed segment. Learning to resolve to evolve from past relationships that no longer serve you. So again, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our guests and our host, our co-host, Takana Henry of Takana's Kitchen. You should let her feed you, but we'll go into that a little bit later in the show.
Well, absolutely. So tonight's conversation is learning how to resolve to evolve beyond past relationships that no longer serve you, right? So let's just all take that in. That whole topic alone is enough. It's a lot. It covers all relationships, whether it be partner relationships, business relationships, parents and child relationship. That's just business, all of it, right? We are in this place where we need to learn how to move on and not continue to hold on to things. So when we first started discussing this, I made the comment about, let's just all be in black because we're going to a funeral. We're just going to go to a burial and learn how to let go of things and walk away from them and stop carrying around dead carcasses that no longer serve us, that don't help us, but hinder us in our current relationships, right? So let's start off with just some icebreaker questions, right? So I always ask a question. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to ask you guys both to answer it as well. Can you remember a time when you were younger, your first time as a child, where you experienced betrayal? Can you remember the scenario around it, like how old you were in that season? So for me, I can say, and this is heavy, so lace up your shoes because we on our way. Okay,
let me put my belt
on.
Seatbelt on.
So my first knowledge of being betrayed was in a vehicle with my parent, expressing to them that I had been harmed and essayed by a caregiver. Okay, and my parent, rather than them being my protector, my parents said, "You're not about to F up my good job. You're going to deal with it. And you probably lying anyway." So that was my first experience of betrayal. Either of you have a story?
Line go.
These are just icebreakers. So these are questions now we're asking each other, but I want you guys that are listening to also answer them for yourselves, because we want this to be an interactive conversation where you not only hear the questions, but you think about it as well. And it takes some time to breathe and take space with them, because this is not a lighthearted dialogue. This is, if you got kids in the room, I will say this right now, tell them not to be in the room. There may be some things that come up in the dialogue with us or even with you and whomever you're listening with that they may not need to hear or be privy to at this time. So go ahead, Kim.
I could say that I can remember a time of that type of betrayal
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger. Um, I experienced a lot of that due to the dynamics
Mm-hmm.
of the way my current family was set up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot to have, a dad that was not in the home, but I had a dad in the home. I
Mm-hmm.
hope you can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of things that I was not allowed to say or allowed to do. And when that betrayal would come, I guess that's when the one parent doesn't want you to have a relationship with the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
So it's like playing both sides against the middle is what you were doing.
yes,
Okay.
so even though I had a working relationship with both
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Mm-hmm.
I still could not show my happiness
Mm-hmm.
towards the parent that was not in the home. I don't know if you
I
understand
do.
that.
I got you.
So, with that being said, I was very young when I had experienced that. And at one point in my life, it felt as though because it was betrayal was being seen, it was in my vision, it was within reaching
Mm-hmm.
distance. With that being said, it made me feel as though I had to be a part of it.
So let me see if I understand what you're saying because I like to ask a question, respond to the question, and hear you, but I want to make certain I understand you. So you were in the betwixt two parents, right? And you had to be one way with one parent and not show too much of how happy you may have been with that parent to the other parent because that would have created confusion with that other parent when you went back to that home.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
All right, son.
So I'm sorry if I did not sum it up well,
No, no,
but
no. I want to make sure that I understand it and that our
I
audience
wasn't
understands
prepared
it.
to be in a hot seat. But go ahead, son.
Okay, you repeat the question.
Sure.
Right.
The question is, do you remember a time when you were younger or your first time as a child when you felt that you experienced betrayal? And what did it do? Like, what was that particular scenario?
See, I wasn't young. I'm quite different.
Okay.
I was pretty much older
Hmm.
when my same sex came out because I first told my dad.
Okay.
I did tell my mom. So some parents, some moms, because moms are moms, and they think that with girls should share them with them first. But back in the day, in the '90s, the early '90s, you know, same sex wasn't popular like it is now.
Hmm.
You couldn't be able to come out to your parent, and let your parent know. So when I came out to my father, like I said, I told my father when I was young. But when it came out like towards my mother, she was different because she was like, what? You know how people say that you're pretty? So it's like, mom's like, well, I guess figure like, why couldn't I tell her first?
Hmm.
But it was different because of I know the reaction that I got from my dad from my mom. Sometimes dads I laid back. My dad was real laid back. I could talk to her about anything. I was scared to tell my mom just because of her father. The
Okay.
my mom did have no issue with it, but you have saying a parent who might did justify it. So that's why I did tell my dad just because I could share anything with my dad.
Right.
He made me feel comfortable to tell me he didn't ask me why he didn't ask anything. But once again with my mom, she was silent, she was quiet at first, and she was distant because to the point like I should have had told her.
Hmm.
But people have to sometimes we have to understand we have to listen to our kids too.
So, if with that being said, that's true. We do have to listen to our kids. And let me just parenthetically pause. That's part of what's happening right now. We see a lot of kids are speaking their truth and they're talking to their families and they're not being heard because it doesn't coincide with what that parent wants for that kid. Because unfortunately, a lot of parents are trying to relive their lives through their children and fulfill what they didn't do. Let me just say, I can say amen and ouch, because that's my personal, journey. Living with a parent that needed to validate, I guess, themselves in some type of way or fulfill whatever they didn't. So they look to do it through their kids. And that's what I'm saying a lot now with our youth. They're not being heard.
Yeah, that's what
They're
it is.
not being seen.
That's not being seen. And like I say,
Yeah.
she was okay with it. My mother just wanted us to be more vocal.
Mm-hmm.
She want us, don't have anything from her. There's one thing I can say. She's like, whatever it is, you could come and tell me. There's nothing more embarrassing after that situation happened,
Mm-hmm.
because I was being distant. And she like, don't never keep nothing secret, because I would never be, embarrassed of my kids. Because
Right.
we know about church. So that's why I'm saying sometimes you have to be careful and you have to be open, honest with your parent. And sometimes parents, you have to be open ears to your child.
And allow the child to be who they are.
And let them tell them. You have to let them talk how they want to talk.
Right.
If they come respectful, not disrespectful, let them express how they feel, because these kids nowadays express different from us.
They do.
Yes.
They express different. So they do come out and say, well, I like this, I like that. Sometimes just listen and pay them attention.
So here's the question then, because I totally agree with that. How did we, and I'm going to answer this first. How do you show up after you have the situation of the betrayal? How did we show up? So for me, I can say after I was rejected from protection from my parent, I didn't show up fully as who I am. I started being quiet, closed. And I tell people sometimes I feel like, and even from therapy, my therapist even said, it's like my subconscious split from my conscious. So my subconscious, it never goes away. It's always consistent. It's always truth. It's always what I really feel in my gut. I lived in that home in my conscious, only dealing with that individual surface, right? While my subconscious was beneath. So I dealt with the person in general, but my subconscious is the details of everything. And my subconscious is where I hid how I was hurting, grieving, because the little girl and the innocence in me died when I couldn't go to the person that was supposed to protect me from these types of things. Instead, they put me back in that scenario and said, deal with it. And so I didn't show up for myself until my 40s, because I really didn't really understand that kind of stuff, when you hold on to it, how it can build, and it transmutes, it goes off into other relationships. Like I was dealing with people in my present based off triggers sometimes of what I didn't handle in my past. Can you relate to that?
Yes, absolutely.
How so? Like, how do you feel like you showed up in the betrayal, or even outside of it, like as you got older? How do you feel it kind of showed up in your life? Or how do you feel like who showed up? Because that's really the truth. Who is it that showed up? Because I know it wasn't my regular. It wasn't me. It was the person that needed to be comfortable dealing with it.
That is an amazing question. But I can answer that two ways. I think when the betrayal was present, I had to show up mute. That means
take a breath, Jesus, right there.
When I had to show up mute, that means I could not discuss that other parent. I cannot discuss what I did with that other parent on my time away. And it was hard because, again, I was in a situation where I was loved by two dads. And again, to see one so happy to have me in the household, and to see someone else unhappy because I'm not in their household.
Okay, let's stop because I'm looking at your eyes. Let's take a breath.
Let's
Let's take a
it's
breath.
rough to even have
Yeah.
to, and you know,
But seriously,
it's
it's real.
not it's not easy to
Mhm.
talk about some of these things that I have to address with listeners. So the best thing that I can give them is a real life scenario.
Right.
And I feel it's only fair. If
Mhm.
they can share it with me, I can share it with them.
Mhm. So, Sam, you kind of explain how you showed up because no, seriously, because you expressed that as long as you were transparent with your family, that's what they needed, more vocal. They just want you to be
That's
transparent.
it. That's one thing. That's one thing I can say. When they did open up the door,
Mhm.
they'll open up the door for me. See, I was one of them childs. I wasn't scared to express how I feel about
Okay.
any type of subject.
Okay.
When I know it was the like, me dating women, I went to both of my grandmas.
Mhm.
So, by my mother, the way that she, the way she handled that situation, she came back when because I was distant. We don't do distant in my family. We
Mhm.
don't be quiet in my family.
Mm.
My mother, though, one day you be distant, she'll give you your moment. But
Wow.
baby, she coming to your house.
That's a freedom. That's a freedom a lot of us were not in our age range. That's a freedom that I can say a lot of the people that we were not afforded that. It's do what I say, do. I don't want to hear your mouth. Do as I say, not as what you see, and just accept whatever it is. And then, and this was the other one. I know y'all heard this. Whatever go on in our house, don't nobody else need to know outside our house.
Yes.
We just
Absolutely.
supposed to deal with it,
Yeah, so
right?
I shut down, and she was like, "Oh no, we don't do that." So that's what I'm saying. So when I shut down, it let her know that I was serious about my life.
Mhm.
And then when she saw that I was respecting myself,
Mhm.
that's all what she wanted, for me to respect me and to accept me. Don't get accepted by her.
Hmm.
I don't need accepted by what God say.
Mm.
So she started putting that in it. You never have to be accepted by me. Who am I?
So that brings me to this next question. Like for me, like I said, I felt like I shut down. I got quiet, right? Because I didn't feel like I was being seen. And so the question is, how did you maneuver in that space if you felt like you were not being seen? For me, I can say, I know for a fact I overcompensated and everybody was my friend. Everybody outside of my home, I made quick, fast friends because I just needed somebody to be a companion. And how that continued in my dating life, I'm considered still a serial monogamous. My first boyfriend I dated from 8th grade to sophomore year of college because I just was like, this is my friend, this is my family. I can be who I am with them. They all thought I was, a lot of really funny and comedy and a lot. And at home, I ain't say nothing. I gotta sing today. Okay, I gotta play the piano. Okay, but other than that, there was no conversation, no personal, no
Interaction.
personality,
Mhm.
not just personal, nothing. There's no personality. So what did you do when you didn't feel like you were being seen? Because you mentioned you had one side where you can just be yourself and be yourself authentically, and then you had to go to the other side and not make this side feel any kind of way because you were having such a great time over there with that side. Like, what did you do to, how did you navigate that, not just as a kid, but as you started getting older in your relationships?
Why you keep getting
Good
me
question.
first?
Okay. Let me go to something.
Why you keep
I was
getting me
trying to
first?
stay in
This crazy
order.
conversation. No.
And then something like,
Repeat the
ooh,
question,
good
please,
question.
ma'am.
So the question is, how did you show up and how did you navigate who you were, how you presented in other relationships as you got older, learning from that place where you were of having to, what do I call it? Code switch, basically, because that's really in a nutshell what it is.
I think it took me through phases in my life where I showed up probably clingy,
Mm, mhm,
you know,
mhm,
and sometimes that meant clinging to sometimes the wrong
Mm-hmm.
individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to lose anyone.
Hmm.
So
Did you feel like you didn't want to lose anybody because you felt like you had already lost you?
probably I
And
felt
that just
that.
came to me. I'm serious. Because just having this conversation seriously, when you start separating yourself and having to compartmentalize your personality and who you are with people, you pretty much sometimes you lose yourself in that juggle of first of all, okay, let me say it this way. I don't know how to shapeshift.
Mhm.
If I said it today, I'm gonna say it tomorrow, and it's gonna be the same 40 years from now. I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm not really good with the shape shifting. So what I did was I got quiet. I muted myself. I muted my personality. I muted my character, right? Because I couldn't be authentic in my home because I was being criticized, judged, and marginalized and attacked verbally in my home and being told that I was difficult to deal with in my home because that little girl said, "Hey, this is what's happening to me on your watch, dude. Could you help?" So I learned how to be quiet and mute. So I showed up in all relationships outside of that one louder, bold, talkative, friendly, just trying to get what I didn't get. And so for you to say, mm, you muted yourself, you ended up learning really it was you that ended up not showing up for real because ooh, that's deep.
Yeah, I
That's
wasn't
deep.
ready for this conversation.
Oh, okay. This
But
is
it's
your
okay.
show, Crazy Conversations with Kim. You.
So
Uh, well, I I think I started caring hard. Because of my mom, I let people start being them. I accept the people who they are, how they were. So I got a lot of good things, and it's a lot of good. People think it's a bad thing, but that word betrayal will teach you a lot.
Man.
yes.
And you will learn a lot. So I learned from her just to listen to people and to accept people how they are. I care more. I love. People might call it I love too hard. I don't believe that. Because when I told my mom that someone first told me that, she was like, "What? You have to, sometimes you have to do the opposite. It is okay to do the opposite. Because it's a learning experience." So because of her, I love more. I cater to more. I listen
So you
to people.
overcompensated.
I overcompensated.
Okay, so how did overcompensation in that relationship show up in your future relationships? Or is that how it showed up in future relationships by overcompensating
Yeah,
everything?
that's how it showed up. Me called it overly love, but I just called it just love. Just because of when you get done certain way, like I said, it's not always bad things. It's all how you just be done, period. And it just woke me up to a lot of society about love, about listening to people, about taking their consideration into your heart.
That's good. So that brings me to something. First, let's just take a breath because that is a lot, right? Um,
Yes, it is.
and let me say, I am nobody's therapist. I just have been in some wonderful, extensive therapy that has just afforded me the love of helping everybody I can, with these kind of conversations. And we talk about it because that's me showing up trying to, fix and heal and help and want to do. And that's just my heart. But something that I learned in therapy was the 5 A's. And I learned it from a book. It's a book on transference when the past is present. Again, the name of the book is When the Past is Present. And it speaks about the 5 A's. And the 5 A's are acceptance, allowing, appreciation, affection, and attention. And the book talks about if you don't get those 5 things before you're 8 to 9 years old, you will spend the rest of your life giving those things to other people or being in other relationships, expecting them from other people. So basically, we like on a hamster wheel. right? So we overcompensate, right? Because we want acceptance. We want acceptance. We want acceptance. I overcompensated because I wanted attention and affection. I wanted somebody to acknowledge that I even existed beyond their child support check. Okay. I'm saying it. It's a crazy conversation. I want to be somebody that existed. Moms, dads, your kids want to exist beyond the third of the month or income tax time or when you need a sitter. I want to be somebody valuable to my parent. Or listen, we ain't got to talk about parent. I wanted to be accepted and allowed to be who I was from whoever I was dating. Yeah. Can I just be appreciated? Can you see me and say, you know what? I love you today. And I don't care what happens throughout this course of this. You are who I love. And it ain't got nothing to do with what I see. It's who you are. The hardship is I spent years not knowing who I was. So if they were giving me who I was confused because I don't know who that is either.
I didn't know.
So then how do you show up? Y'all can't sit here and be like, what?
You show up open. You show up
open. Yep. Open wounded or just open? Like what kind of open?
When I crazy conversation.
Open.
Wide the F open.
Wide okay. Open.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I felt like for my new everything. That's how I had to show up. Open and ready to embrace.
Receive. Right. I got you.
Love.
So let's do this real quick. This is one of my favorite therapists. She does this and I think it's kind of cute. I crush on her a little bit, but she says, and just repeat after me, I forgive myself.
I forgive myself
for thinking.
For thinking.
The past could have been any better.
The past could have been any better.
I forgive myself.
I forgive myself
for not
trusting me
with me.
With me.
That's it for right now. We good.
I hope, is she charging us for this? Okay. All right. So again, when I say that learning to resolve, to evolve, you cannot miss these segments. Go ahead, Ms. Takana.
So, I mean, as we go along, so we've gotten from childhood, right? Betrayal, how you showed up in that scenario. What did you have as an anticipatory? What did you expect? Things of that nature. We've talked about that. So we landed on where we were in the relationships, right? Dating, married, whatever those relationships were, past relationships. And when I thought about this title, learning to resolve to evolve beyond past relationships, the part that's not the meat for me. It's beyond relationships that no longer serve you. For me, that's the underlying cursor for this entire conversation, because you can have a predicament where you have a relationship or connection with somebody. It can be through kids. Like I have a connection with my goddaughters and I met them through an ex of mine. I stopped dating that guy in 2000. And here it is 24 years later, right? And the goddaughters are grown now, but they still call me godmom and they still my back, but I'm still always connected and around their family. So in that scenario, let me just say it like this. So what I had to do was, I never forget in 2000 when the guy and I broke up, his older brother said to me, you need to stay away from the family for at least a year or so. And I'm like, but the kids, he said, nope. You need to stay away long enough where it no longer, so when you heal, it no longer bothers you if you see him with whoever he gonna be with, and you can still be around us and communicate, and there's no strife. I didn't get it then, and it cut me, but I understood that relationship that he and I had, it didn't serve me anymore. But this relationship with the girls and the rest of the family was still connected. It was still healthy. It was a good relationship. I later understood, the only reason I met you is because of them anyway. It had nothing to do with you. And so I learned at that point, I needed to start to think about all of my relationships, my dating relationships, because to this day, I'm still friends with any person I've ever dated. Their whole family still creates or treats me like I'm family. But I had to learn to separate what don't serve me. And I don't visit the grave site. I don't visit the dead as a rule, period. Anyway, in natural, I don't go to cemeteries for what? And that's to me a dead thing. And so it doesn't serve me. So I don't care if my goddaughter say, well, you need to contact such and such. For what? I don't go to the dead. Like, you know what I mean? So I wonder how you all relate to your current relationships, dealing with the dead cemetery. And I'm gonna go to Psalm first.
Yeah.
Because you asked me not to go to you first. So I'm gonna go to Psalm first.
I said that question. But it's okay though.
But basically, I need to because here's the thing, and I want to reiterate this. This is a funeral. Okay. So get your hats out. I'm here. The chef isn't here. I'm gonna do a hymnal if need be. I do sing. I'll do the song and I'll cook the food for the repast. But when we leave here, we ain't coming back to this dead site no more.
No more.
Because there's nothing that is here. What we just celebrated, what, Easter? Why do you seek the living amongst the dead? Some of y'all will resonate with that. If you don't, you'll get it later. Ask Nana, she'll tell you. But that's the question. How in our current lives are we still going to the cemetery? And how is going to the cemetery crippling our current relationships? How is that?
See, my current and past relationship, I never visit the dead. I let the dead stay there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, ain't no such thing I regret it or it was a bad situation. Everything don't end bad, but it's dead to me now.
But do you still have any connections with any of those parties in the past? Like, for example, let's bring it real. It could be past relationships, married relationships. You might have children. You may have still some type of interaction. Do you still?
Yeah, I have a son.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, once again, we have to teach our kids. Mm-hmm. The kids don't know. We have to teach our kids. But if you going back to the dead, why you keep getting mad when your child bring up the dead?
Oh.
So
I'm going to the cemetery. Me as the adult, and I'm watering, right? And I'm putting new fresh flowers out weekly. But when my kid brings up, I went and I put some fresh flowers, and you mad at the kid because they put fresh. But you showing them.
You show them
that this is what we do.
This is what we do.
Okay.
So you have to show them. So no, I did not. Like I said, ain't no such thing calling.
Right.
Ain't no such thing.
How did you get there though?
Prayer.
Okay.
For real, it took prayer. It took like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
It took my parents. Like I said, because I was kind of a little selfish at first, and I could admit it. But I'm telling you, it took time. It took prayer. But when I tell you, when you pray, a prayer word with that.
But you don't want to pick the phone up and just say, "Let me just tell you real good. I don't need the food with you. Leave me alone." Don't it wasn't anything.
You don't have to do that.
Okay.
They go feel it. You don't have to. Your actions speak louder than your words. Your actions get you in trouble.
So when I got a wound or a digit on my finger, let's just talk about a finger as a digit. We all done broke a finger. We had a kid that broke a finger. We know about fingers being broken. We got kids in the daycare that broke a finger. We know about fingers being broke. Okay. So I got a limb, right? And I don't get the necessary care to it. And I keep ignoring it. It's going to fall off at some point.
It's going to fall off at some point. It's going to fall off. So once again, you got to heal. You know how to heal yourself.
That's good.
For anyone can heal you. Even like this, it's a God. But once again, God want to see what you want to do.
Because faith without works is dead. Let's say
so, like I said, I have not, and no, I'm not perfect. That was my choice for I could keep my mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, the mental state is seriously. So for you have to keep your mental state, because if you don't want to get clear from it, it's going to involve your new relationship and you in trouble.
So it's like a wound that's bleeding out and you keep putting a bandage on it, but you won't excavate the wound.
You do not
clear it.
To clear it. So we have to stop going to the dead, because once again, you're going to be dead with it. By yourself. The dead by themselves.
So when you surround yourself with the dead, you end up killing yourself.
Killing yourself. So you cannot. So no, we did not talk about What she at? What you doing? We did not know. I didn't have to call. I was around some strong individuals, women.
So, okay, so what happens when
Kim will tell you, she have no interruption, period, on my part. No interruption. With none of my relationship, no
Look, I'm over here trying to figure this shit out before it's my turn.
But I'm
sorry,
just saying,
Earl. I'm
it's your
sorry.
turn. So how do
I got
you
the $2 today.
So here's
we
the
got
thing.
the tip job.
So then, Kim, I'll turn it to you and I'll ask you another question. I'll phrase it a different way. Okay. Same question. How do you strand of hairs in my eyes killing me?
Get the question together.
Yeah, get it together.
How do you navigate your current relationship with cemetery clothes near?
One thing that I can say that works in my life is that it took a lot of prayer for me to even appear at the cemetery. Put it like that. Some things people want to still live, even though it's not with them. But at one point in my life, I knew what I needed and what was holding me back. So I cannot, no matter what type of functioning relationship that I had with family or past relationships, I left in good standing. I should have a certificate of good standing. But the one thing that I learned was to allow that new person to get to know that family and get to know those people. I don't feel as though that's not my place anymore. You know, we've had our time and it's time to grow. And in order to grow, you have to move. And in order to break certain soul ties, you have to make certain accommodations in your life, especially if you want that completed peace.
So let me interject real quick because you just said something and I got to pause on it.
I need to know if we getting a bill for this. Okay.
So crazy.
Go ahead.
So a soul tie. I liken a soul tie to my situation as an adult needing the nature nurture from my mother. And I liken the soul tie when I finally got free. I liken it to an umbilical cord. An umbilical cord that she had cut in 1979 that I was still trying to hold on to for life. And so I showed up needing nature and nurture.
Ooh.
I showed up in every relationship needing nature and nurture because I didn't get it. And I was holding an umbilical cord, wanting and needing in desperation to have the love that I knew that I had in me reciprocated, which is why I was a serial monogamist. Because when you're a serial monogamist, you don't care what go on in that scenario. You're going to hold on for you get it? So that's a soul tie. But I had to identify that soul tie was not from those current relationships. That was from back then. That was from the grave site. So I think when we talk about learning how to resolve to evolve beyond past relationships that no longer serve you, we need to individually identify what that soul tie was, whether it's an umbilical cord connection and who you connected your cord to. and who no longer serves you that you connected. Because we all done hitched a ride with somebody that didn't want us there. We just was like happy to go. Right? We all have. In so many ways. We got friends that we know good and darn well. We ain't had no business being with them. Had we stayed friends with them, we might be in jail somewhere. We might be in the grave because their life it wasn't congruent or aligned with ours. But we were so enthralled with the connection.
Told you, clinginess. I was clinging.
And overcompensating and just trying to, here I am, I'm your shiny bear. You know, we were caring to anybody that would be there to accept it, right? So again, this may be more than one conversation. This conversation has layers, y'all. It is not a one and done. It is not easy to discuss. And I'm going to tell you something. I have gone through hypnotherapy, which helped me to understand the past and how it needed to be unearthed. Had to go to the grave site so I could wake up the person that I tried to kill off, my conscious, because the subconscious was like, we up in here. We ain't going nowhere. We remember it all. You know, I went through that to learn how to deal with the triggers. Then I went through a medium because I had never had an actual contact with my biological father because of the lie that I was told that he didn't want me. And he did. And my name is in every obituary in the family, and all my siblings have been looking for me all my life. And I didn't connect with them till I was 32. So all of that, I had to talk to my dad. Then I did an Akashic reading, resource reading, which is amazing because it is a form of therapy that gives you understanding of who you are generations before and what you've always done. And it is a, oh my God, I don't want to believe in that. I have heard that stigma of us as people not wanting to go, one, to therapy, period. Two, you don't want to go outside of your comfort zone of therapy. And sometimes you might need to go under so you can unearth some of that stuff that you thought you buried that's keeping you crippled. And you keep getting a trigger. And every time Uncle Joe come in the room, you twitch and you don't know why. It's because he used to mess with you and you tried to bury it. Let's just be real. Some of this stuff needs to be discussed. So this may not be a one and done. There is work to it. Yes. But I will tell you all that ascribe to prayer and understanding who God is. Nobody in the Bible, and you could check me if you want to, but I know I'm right. I'm standing on what that little boy said. I'm standing on business on this one. Mm-hmm. Nobody in the Bible was healed that didn't first do something. Yeah. The woman with the issue of blood had to go to him. The man at the well had to get pulled. They had to pick him up and take him by the side of the water. Everybody had an action. Faith without works is dead, lest any man shall boast. So this conversation is not just itchy ear. We're hearing you. It's going to require your work. You're going to have to cancel some memberships that you've had ongoing, not Jet and Ebony, but with people. With people. You're going to have to listen to your kid when they walk into a room with you in a family outing and they tell you they don't want to go over there. You need to ask them and listen to them. Why you don't want to go, baby? What's wrong? What happened when you went the last time? It may be something going on over there at the house. We need to get to a place that we can be real about how we pimp our children according to child support. Oh, and he don't want me, so he can't see you. What? Where that come? What, that don't even make sense to me. But it's a layered conversation because some of that stuff that I just said is serving some people that are listening, or you think it's serving you. But right now you don't realize I'm your puppet. That was one of the songs I was gonna sing. You just being a puppet, and you just going, and you just doing, and you ain't getting nothing out of it of value that's gonna serve your life for your future, your children, or anything around you. Because you too busy, mad and dramatic because he ain't called when he said he was. He ain't bring the clothes over here like he said, or he calling this one and I'm sick of him calling my kid. And why he got to create? Why are we with our dead clothes on? I just want us. We just had a whole Resurrection Sunday. Can y'all take off the dead clothes now today? Leave them, and you ain't no altar. You got to leave them at where you at right now. Take them off. Like, I'm sorry. I'm glad I can't see you because I want you to get don't disrobe. But you know, I
Leave
just
those
want
kids alone. Leave those kids alone with their parents.
leave them.
Leave
Just
those
be
kids
peace.
alone.
Because at the end of the day, what you don't realize, fathers, mothers, aunties, uncles, whomever, Nana, some of y'all grandmamas is a problem too. We'll get to y'all later because I ain't scared of you. I'm 50. I ain't scared of none of y'all.
I'm trying to get there.
Girl. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is you needed to realize that the person that's being hurt by it is the child, because the child is a sponge. They're absorbing. A sponge, when we say that, we think about it, just wipe up stuff. Now, let me tell you, it absorbs. I want you to get the dynamic of that 3D. It absorbs. Your children are absorbing your behavior, your mannerisms, your character traits, what you're picking up, what you're putting down, how you treat people. They're observing and they're emulating you when they're outside of your care. If you ever want to know how your kid, I was a teacher for 20 years. If you ever want to know how your kid acts when they're not in school, how you act when you at your job, that's how they act. If you showing out, they showed out. If you going off on folks at random, that's what they do. If you just come in with attitude and throw something, that's what they do too. Trust me. So there's levels to this dialogue. This is going to cost you something. I suggest, if you're really serious about it, I want you to stay tuned, because we're just hitting the tip of it. But I want you all to really think about, do I really want to resolve? Resolve meaning put to rest, get to a conclusion. Do I really want to conclude this BS that I'm doing so I can evolve, grow up, grow the up, grow up? That's what evolution is. You grow up. Do I want to put this crap down so I could grow up, so I can move past the grave? Because it ain't doing nothing for me except creating more of what I'm not even wanting to be bothered with.
And I promise you, when you move it to the side, and when you grow up, watch how you glow up.
Yo, baby, can't nobody get in your... I tell people all the time, I'll never in my life have an accident with people. You know why? Because I have a lane that I've carved out for myself, and ain't nobody else in it but me. And I can't nobody outdo me being me.
I know that's right.
And the only competition I will ever have is me yesterday. And I'm going to outdo her.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
But are you willing, audience, listeners, us? Because it's not like it's a one and done. We still growing. We still evolving. Every day you got breath, you have an opportunity to do something new that you didn't do, or do something better, or be a better person, or go out of your way to say, you know what? But not in the sense of, I need you to accept me. Not that.
Be you.
But just give, because you know what? I don't even care. It don't mean nothing to me, baby. You got it.
So is there anything that you would like to say that you didn't get to say on the questions and the concerns with today's topic?
Well, for me, like I said, I had very good therapists that I was able to kind of unearth a lot of things, right? I found out some things during this journey from family members that were very dogmatic and negative about who I am as an individual, and lied to family and just defame my name. And so I promise you, when I finally got clarity on it, it also gave like it closed the door on it. It closed any opening or any desire or want for me to continue that umbilical cord, right? And I realized that I wasn't crazy. I knew this person was doing this. I knew it. And all along, I kept trying to appease other people to try to forge a relationship, because they kept saying, well, it's just right to have you. Lie. If it don't serve me, I don't care what it is. So I've said a lot today. My journey has been one that has evolved into something it's beautiful. I love my husband. It's been my best friend 21 years. Like, I can say anything to him, with him, and we're very transparent with each other. And I think because we've been friends for so long, it just makes it much easier.
Yes.
It makes a difference.
Component.
It really does, because I don't like myself every day. Some days I'm like, ugh. And I feel like that about him, but I love him all the time. And I'm glad that he's my friend. And the other good thing is, when we get into these hard spaces of conversations, I'm not his wife. I said, your friend says she don't think that you should do, and he'd be like, well, your friend thought about it too, you know. So we completely remove those titles so that we can get over the, but you're my husband and you're supposed to do. No. And I told him the other week, a couple weeks ago, we had a little tough moment. I said, you know what? If your wife ain't doing what you think, y'all ain't even been married that long. Why don't you divorce her? You shouldn't be with nobody that ain't good for you. And I'm your friend. I don't want you to be with nobody that don't make you happy. And he looked at me and said, oh, that's what I'm supposed to, you want me to divorce my wife? I actually love my wife. It changed the conversation around, you know, and so you have to learn how to show up and present a certain way, be your authentic self in all scenarios. And if it's anybody in your life that you can't be who you really are,
it's a problem.
They need to go to the gravesite.
Yes, it's time for you, because a lot of us lost us. This is a time for you have a mate to let you be you.
Man, listen,
because it's 1 out of a million.
It is.
So you have a mate let you be you. Get out there, skeleton.
You have to know who
you have to let it go. You have to realize who you was born and how you was born and what you was born as.
See, the problem is a lot of us, we done suffer COVID, right? So everybody was isolated and stuck in the house, like, you know, couldn't go nowhere. And so, you know, they came up out of the scenario and they trying to figure out who they are and who the person is that they was with. Now, take some time now to figure out who you are, period.
Yeah.
That's most important.
That matters.
Matters most, yeah.
It does. It does. I appreciate this conversation. I wasn't ready, but I appreciate this conversation. It helped not only me, you know, we all have triggers. We all need to heal. We all need to bury things that no longer serves us.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I'm scared to know what's going to happen on the next segment. My eyes are wide open now, but the one thing I can do is I'm extremely appreciative to you to come in and help Sumner and I navigate through some of these concerns and questions and situations that the listeners have. We need that. And I'm glad that we can use some of our real life scenarios to give them a clue of some of the things that we have had to endure. Life is life, and it life's for all of us, not just some of us. So with that being said, we appreciate you listening to Crazy Conversations with Miss Kim on IntellectualRadio.com. Good night, friends, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Like at this point in life, man, like if you ain't got good vibes, man, great vibes, man, don't come around me, you know what I mean? Don't even waste your time on, man.